Will Assassin's Creed Mirage have tomb missions? Or tomb memories? Or tomb sequences? Or whatever you want to call them? Now, for those of you that don't know, and a reminder for those of you that do, Assassin's Creed tomb missions were segments within the earlier Assassin's Creed games that would be sort of a puzzle, mainly surrounded in parkour, where you would guide your character through this almost maze and come out the other end with a treasure. In the case of Assassin's Creed 2, the Assassin Seals. In the case of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, the Seals of Romulus. So I'm not sure if they were called seals, but the Romulus stuff. And in Assassin's Creed Revelations, it would be the Masyaf keys. Now, in Assassin's Creed 2, these two missions were imperative to the main story because by completing them all and getting all of the Assassin Seals, you would gain access to the armor of Altair, which you needed to complete the main story. In Brotherhood, it was less of a priority and it was more of a side thing, but the main story would lead into these sort of missions here and there. Getting the armor of Romulus was not a prerequisite and it was basically optional to complete all of them. And going back to Revelations again, it was also part of the main story because you needed every Masyaf key to be able to finish the main story. So now I've caught you guys up with what the Assassin 2 missions were within the Assassin's Creed games. We can now go into detail and discuss whether we think they will make a return in Assassin's Creed Mirage. Now there's a few factors to think about before we can come to a conclusion, such as parkour, world design, gameplay mechanics, and stuff like that. So you might be thinking right now, Exar, why didn't you mention the Assassin 2 missions in Assassin's Creed 3? And we got some in Assassin's Creed Unity as well. And even in the most recent Assassin's Creed Valhalla, we got something similar. We technically did, but if you look at those games compared to the older games, it's night and day with what the two missions actually were. The Ezio Games 2 missions were very intricate, very much of a platformer, you could say, because of the way the parkour system was designed in those games. In Assassin's Creed 1 through Revelations, the parkour system was designed to give you as much control as possible to go in any direction you wanted, up, down, left, right, back eject, side eject, everything like that. You had the reins of how you wanted to climb, and the Assassin 2 missions were created in tandem with the parkour system in mind. I do believe that the reason those were so fun and engaging was all to do with the climbing, the platforming, and stuff like that. Now with future Assassin's Creed games after Revelations, the parkour systems were dumbed down. AC3 having the newest, flashiest looking parkour system than any game before it, but being the most dumbed down version. You didn't have as much control as you did with earlier games, and those Assassin 2 missions weren't as engaging, were much harder, but not in a challenging way, in an annoying way, because you didn't have the control to climb in every which way you wanted, meaning the Assassin 2 puzzle missions just didn't really work. Then with Assassin's Creed Unity, when they kind of brought that back in the Nostradamus Enigmas or Enigmas, whatever it's called, side content where you collect all of these little things throughout the world and do these riddles, and then at the end there was this little sort of tomb puzzle sort of area platforming thing that you could do. Now I did it and I will show gameplay on screen right now. It's probably not my gameplay, so I will credit whoever made it, but it's a lot harder because with that parkour system you had even less control. It was a lot more, you'd push a button to go a certain way, you'd watch the animation play out, where with the older games it was you're in control the entire time. So again, the tomb mission here does not translate well to Assassin's Creed Unity because the parkour system just doesn't allow for it, or at least doesn't allow for us the players to have the control that the tomb mission wants us to or is made for us to. And finally with Valhalla, it was pretty much the same thing. The parkour system was even more dumbed down, probably the most dumbed down parkour system we've seen so far with the most 3 recent Assassin's Creed games. There were a few kind of tomb missions, but they weren't really the same. It was just climb here over there and it's basically done. It wasn't anything as near as intricate as the older games, and that's because Ubisoft knew they couldn't do something like that, having an intricate tomb mission where you have to figure out where to climb, jump here right at the perfect times, when a parkour system that they've created just won't work with that. So that brings me back to Assassin's Creed Mirage. Do I think they will bring a return to tomb missions? Now, the way I see it, it could go one of either two ways. We've been alluded to by the developers, but never specifically outright told, that the parkour system within Assassin's Creed Mirage is taking inspiration from the parkour system in Assassin's Creed Unity. That's a step up from Assassin's Creed Valhalla completely, because Valhalla was just an awful, down bad, embarrassing version of Unity's. So bringing back a Unity style sort of parkour where you can actually move fluidly and get from one building to the other without falling down first, blah, 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 That's going to be a lot better. But at the same time, Assassin's Creed Mirage could literally have the exact same parkour system as Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where climbing and jumping is pretty much non-existent at this point. If the game goes with Valhalla's parkour or Unity's parkour, 2 missions aren't strictly gonna work because they're going to have the same issue as they did with Assassin's Creed Unity and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The parkour system isn't going to be designed to give you the level of control that the older games did, and so will result in 2 missions, puzzle missions within the game, being pretty much impossible because, again, I know I keep saying this, but you won't have the level of control to be able to do such a puzzle platformer, if that makes sense. Now, if Assassin's Creed Mirage goes back to an older style of parkour, such as the older Ezio games where you do have control, and I'm not saying the game is literally going to take the older style of parkour and bring it into a new game, because that's, let's be honest, that's not going to happen. But what they might do is they might take inspiration from that and give the player a level of control where you can back eject properly, you can side eject properly, you can cancel out your actions as you climb. Side note, that was something you could do in older games, and again, it added to that control with the player. Whereas with older games, the animation plays out, you can't cancel in between, so you have to wait until the character's climbed. If they're able to weave in Unity style parkour where it looks flashy, feels fluid, but add that level of the Ezio trilogy control, then sure, they can bring back Assassin 2 missions. Do I think that's going to be the case? I'm not too sure, because I don't know if it's even possible to have the flashy animations of Unity and mix that with the level of control with the older games. I don't know if that's possible, and I don't really believe that Ubisoft are going to bother to completely revamp the parkour system again. I think they're going to take what they've already got or what they've done in the past and kind of just chuck it in there. If we were looking at a company like CD Projekt Red, I guess, pre-Cyberpunk, when they were making The Witcher and they were innovating and doing all this, and they were making an Assassin's Creed game, I wouldn't put it past them to create a whole new system that works in tandem with control and fluid actions. But when it comes to Ubisoft, you know, these days at least, they don't innovate as much as they used to, and they reuse a lot of assets. I mean, they always reuse a lot of assets, but they still used to innovate, whereas nowadays, they don't do that as much. They take what's popular from other games and they kind of bastardize that in their own form. So no, I don't think they're going to elaborate on parkour in Assassin's Creed Mirage, and I don't think tomb sequences will be in Assassin's Creed Mirage in the same way that they were in the older games. But for the sake of hypotheticality, I don't think that's a word, but you know what I'm trying to say. Let's imagine 2 missions are in Assassin's Creed Mirage, and let's come up with a scenario for the first Assassin's 2 mission you find within Assassin's Creed Mirage. It's part of the main story, the rest of them can be optional, but this one is part of the main story as an introduction to the 2 missions. It's right at the beginning of Assassin's Creed Mirage. You're still a 17-year-old Basim. You haven't joined the Brotherhood yet, and you don't even know who they are. You have sneaked into a politician's party in the Round City district. Now, the reason Basim has sneaked into this party is because he knows there's a lot of rich people there, which means a lot of money and jewels and gold for the taking. After all, Basim, at 17 years old, is a street thief. So he goes around pickpocketing people, and within the gameplay, you are learning how to pickpocket in this segment of the game. You're literally blending in the crowd with social stealth within this rich party. You're pickpocketing different people, and when you get to a certain amount of gold or jewels or whatever you're stealing, you get caught, let's imagine. They're like, hey, who's that guy? Chase him. The guards start chasing Basim. You're running, and this is all in gameplay. You're climbing over buildings, you're getting out there, and as you're running, you see a well, and you don't know where else you can get away from these guards, so you just jump into this well. You kind of fall down, you're hiding in the bottom of the well until the guards stop looking for you. Then you realize, hang on a minute, what's this? There's an assassin seal, similar to what it was like in AC2, at the bottom of this well. Now, you don't have a hidden blade yet to unlock it, but you have a knife, a sort of dagger. So you stab that in, you twist it like a key, and all of a sudden it opens up this massive interior underground. Now you delve into this, and this is your first assassin tomb. You get a few cutscenes here and there of Basim just looking completely astonished, like, what is this? And then within gameplay, you have these platforming puzzles where you have to climb up here, you have to look to a ledge to figure out how you can get up there, and you figure it out. It's a puzzle. Now, once you make your way through this tomb under the city of Baghdad, it's more of an exploration tomb. There's no enemies, nobody to fight just yet. You're exploring and you're learning. Now, at the end of this tomb, we see a hidden blade on a plinth, a column, whatever you want to call it. And Basim takes this and he's like, wow, I need this. He puts it on his wrist. Then at the end of this tomb, there's also a new way to get out of this place, back up to the city via maybe a manhole or something like that. Now, imagine how cool that would be as an introduction to the Assassin Order, to the world within which you're playing, to Basim as a character, and a great way to introduce Basim to the Brotherhood. Maybe then, obviously this is a side note, but maybe then the Assassins get wind of some kid running around with a hidden blade, and that's when they start to contact him, and they think, you know what, kid? You got potential. Something like that, I don't know. So yeah, it would be really cool to have Assassin 2 missions within Assassin's Creed Mirage. Now, I think there will be some sort of dungeony, tomby sort of sequences of the game. I just don't think they will have the platforming, puzzling intricacy as the older games did. But to just see something like I've described in the game is going to be so fun, so amazing in of itself. Sure, I preferred the older parkour of the Ezio games because I had more control and it did allow for these puzzle sequences, but if we can just have great story sequences with things similar, like, I'm happy. Just make a good game and I'm happy. Alright, with that being said, guys, if you did enjoy this video, then feel free to press that subscribe button so you stay up to date with everything Assassin's Creed Mirage. And if you want to go a step further in supporting me, you can press the like button on this video. I'll be streaming this Friday at 3 PM UK time, and this is going to be a fun one. We're going to be using ChatGPT, the AI software, to come up with different story scenarios within Assassin's Creed Mirage to get a better idea of what the game's going to be. So if you want to tune in for that, press that subscribe button and turn bell notifications on. Alright guys, make the Father understanding guide us. I love you. I will see you soon. Goodbye.